Alright, now we're leaving Hungary first thing in the morning and crossing back over the border into Slovakia. We're gonna make 2 more border crossings today, I believe. So, it's the first of 3. There we are. Slovakia. Last night when we were in town just kind of walking around, I passed this building where they had some listings for houses for sale. And the first house that I priced out, it was in Hungarian currency, of course, but the first house cost less than $7,000. It was like $6,700. The second house I priced out was like, would be like my dream house in America if I could build such a thing. Really big, kind of like a cabin in the woods sort of thing. And it costs like $70,000 for like what would be considered my dream house in America. Something that would probably cost $500,000 or more. So, pretty crazy how cheap the prices are here. We're going up our first hill of the day here. This is about a 3-kilometer climb up to the top. Nice houses behind me here. Really nice neighborhood. Kevin caught up to me back there. I stopped and waited for him at the turn. But when he caught up to me, he said, "Wow, you really got some fuel in you this morning. You're really going." And I thought, just kind of going my average speed. But I am feeling really good at the moment, actually, physically, you know? And I haven't felt this good for like the last 2.5 years. Oh, we got a big downhill here. I better wait for Kevin. I'm gonna pull over. Kevin will come up the road here behind me. But yeah, I've been feeling really well lately, especially on this trip, which is something I haven't felt on my previous bike tours. If you watched me go to Alaska or South America recently, I was really out of it on those 2 trips. I don't know if you could tell in the videos. I was kind of faking it a little bit maybe, but making myself look a little happier on video than I was. But yeah, I was freaking out of it on those trips. And the reason I was out of it is because I was diagnosed with testicular cancer like 2.5 years ago. And it was really hard for me. The physical part of recovering from the surgery wasn't hard. It was just like the mental stuff, and I think I'm still dealing with that a little bit. But I feel like now, 2.5 years later, I'm finally getting past it. But what's funny is, like, when I had cancer, I got the cancer at some point during my 14-month-long bike tour across Europe and Asia. And that's kind of around the same time that I started making these videos, actually. And so if you go back to the very beginning and watch my vlogs from the very beginning, you're watching a guy who has cancer and doesn't know it for the first 3 months or so of my videos, which is really kind of creepy to watch. I think I've gone back and watched some of the videos and where I'm feeling really tired or something, and I think, you know, was there something going on there that I just wasn't aware of? But anyways, yeah, feeling good now that I'm 2.5 years past the whole incident. It's just funny because, like, when I did have cancer and when I found out, I felt really, really good too. Like, I felt like I was in the best shape of my life. And then all of a sudden, boom, you have cancer. So it's weird because you don't feel any different. Like, I didn't feel tired or anything. Here's Kevin. There he is. Woo! Yeah, yeah. There he goes. Just ditching me now. How rude is that? Anyways, yeah, it's just weird because I felt so good and I was actually quite sick. And it scares me now that I'm feeling so good. It's almost like I'm scared because I feel good. That's a weird thing to feel, right? Anyways, I better go. Kevin's waiting for me. The road calls. The open road is calling. Get back out there, Darren. Stop talking. Ride your freaking bicycle. So we are entering now the border town of Busan, Slovakia, and again, I butchered the name, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna stop here and fill up our water bottles, maybe get a little food, a snack or something, maybe have Kevin's coffee break, and then we're gonna cross the border back into Hungary. We wanna get food and stuff here because we have no Hungarian currency, and a lot of the places in Hungary don't accept credit card. So, yeah, so we want to use our euros while we're in Slovakia to stock up, get us through the next couple hours of riding in Hungary, and then we'll cross back into Slovakia later today. Let's stock up here.
Supermarket stop?
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Bread shop.
Yeah.
És hogy jól mondtam. Megittem. Igen, így becsületes. Én mondom, hogy igazat, hogy megittem is én, de ha... De fejezd már be, azt hisz már, mert az emberemmel nem bírom. Nem bírom? Nem, hát tudod, hogy milyen betegek.
So that little bridge right behind us is the border crossing between Slovakia and Hungary. That car is in Slovakia. We're in Hungary now. This way is the way we're going. Look at the road. Yep.
Dirt track.
Dirt track. For about 2 kilometers, I think, or something. And oh, see over there, that town? That's, or over there, one of those towns, we hit the road. So, not very far. Okay. Hungary now. I'm pretty sure that this will be the last time we are in Hungary. We have 16 kilometers to just kind of cut across the small corner of the country. This seems like a very poor part of Hungary. Lots of abandoned cars and stuff along the side of the road, run-down houses. The people look a bit more worn themselves, darker, dirtier. Their clothes are ripped. So yeah, interesting. This area off to my right is some kind of nature preserve. It's really beautiful, actually. There's a river off to my left, and over there, across the way, in the distance, that's Slovakia. So again, we're just hugging the border here between Slovakia and Hungary. say goodbye to Hungary for good because we are crossing into Slovakia for the last time. Whew. This is the old border station up ahead. There are no longer any border checks between Hungary and Slovakia because these two countries are part of the European Union. So I can just cycle straight through here without having to check my passport. If we had had to stop and get our passport checked at each and every one of these border crossings we've gone through in the last couple days, I don't think we would have gone this way. We would have tried much harder to just stay in one country. But because we knew the borders were open, we were willing to cross and crisscross several times across Hungary and Slovakia. So now we got about 41 or 2 kilometers to go until we reach our campground tonight. And it's a beautiful day out here in Slovakia now. Woo. We're going off on dirt road. Kevin doesn't like these dirt roads, I don't think. That way, Kevin! Doesn't that look fun?
Uh-huh.
What do you think of my shortcut, Kevin?
Very scenic.
Passport? Yeah. Do you have your passport?
I'll grab it.
We've got camp set up. It cost us €8 tonight to camp here at this water park. I don't know what it is actually. Some kind of water park and campground and mini golf place.
River Resort.
Kevin's already gone for a swim. He said that alone was worth the €8. I've had my shower. Now we're gonna get some French fries because that's pretty much all they have here that we can eat. And then we'll make ourselves some food in the campsite afterwards. How do you feel after today's 87.4?
Well, I feel fantastic. I thought it was a hard 87.
Yeah.
Considering we did it on the top of 80 odd yesterday, or 70 odd, 77 yesterday or something in the heat.
Yeah.
And yeah, the heat sort of came back again today. The last half of the day was pretty hot. out there. Well, I was just drinking water like mad. I don't know that I really kept up with my hydration, but yeah, I drank a lot of water today.
Neither one of us has peed in the last like 48 hours.
Well,
Is
I
that
don't
right?
know whether I should say on camera, but I did.
Oh, okay. Well, shoot, you.
At least that's happened.
Yeah.
One milestone out of the way. At least my kidneys are still functioning.
Yeah.
I was just saying, I really like this building. It's, you know, light and airy and got a lot of heavy timber, but it's, you know, the sun shining in and it's the view of the pool and river down there.
Yeah.
It's a French fries and red wine, so it's an odd combination which I'd probably never attempt at home, but there you go, I'm a long way from home. Campsites, we just camped just up there, up on the hill, by ourselves. I doubt that we'll see another soul overnight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no complaints whatever.
So I'm gonna interview you.
Sure.
Because I feel like we've done 4 bike trips together, and still I don't think I've ever done a proper introduction to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So who are you, and how do we know each other?
We know each other by doing a bike trip in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And meeting up there. But prior to that, I had actually been on to Bicycle Touring Pro on the web, so I kind of knew sort of who you were. So I knew you were in Switzerland, so I went to Switzerland, did the Swiss Challenge Tour. So that's kind of where it all started, really.
Yeah. But okay, before that was in 2012. We met on the Bike Switzerland Challenge Tour. But before that, who were you? Where are you from?
Where do I start? Well, I'm from Australia, from Adelaide in Australia, in the Adelaide Hills. Been married for a long time, 46 years, kids, grandkids, whole family kind of structure, family setup.
How many kids?
3 kids, 6 grandkids.
Oh.
But you know, I'm turning 70 this year, so there's kind of a lot of history. I can't relate to a whole lot of it. I mean, it's okay when you're 30 you can relate your history, you know, it doesn't take all that long, but when you're 70 it's a much longer history. So yeah, just look, lots of life experience, lots of stuff that I've done, including you know, some time in the Navy and some time away in Vietnam during the Vietnam War and all the rest of it. Yeah, stable work life, a nurse for most of it. Oh, I started off as a bricklayer, but that was way back. But yeah, a nurse for most of it, doing, I thought, really valuable and interesting work, particularly the last 10 years of my working life. I was working with people with HIV and people dying of various, usually cancer, in the last days, weeks, months of their lives. So yeah, that's kind of where I've come from. But parallel with all that, parallel with being the, you know, the stock standard husband and father and grandfather and all the rest, there's also been the bit of me that's been out there and bushwalking and doing stuff in the bush, camping, which is not an interest. My wife doesn't mind camping, but she doesn't like rough camping. She'd much rather have kind of, you know, softer camping. So, and that's fine. That's fine. We do a bit of that, but I'm okay with the rough stuff as well. I don't mind a few weeks away in the Australian outback in the red sand and the dust and flies. And then about, I don't know, 10. I've always ridden bikes. So I bought my first road bike in 1966 when I was in the Navy. So you know, bikes and I go back a long way. But touring wise, I really became interested a bit, I suppose, about 10 or 12 years ago. Started to think about bike touring, and so I started to accumulate stuff and buy bikes and do short, couple of days here or a couple of days there sort of trips. I joined a touring cycling club in Adelaide all of whom are very experienced touring cyclists. So I learned a lot in a very short time riding with them, and then it's just really built on from there. So it's you know, I kind of lead 2 or 3 lives all simultaneously. The life of, you know, the husband and father and grandfather and all that, and then the life of being outdoors doing stuff that's a bit more adventurous.
Yeah. You have a lot of interests though that are kind of outside of work and family and bike touring. What other things are you into?
Some people are joiners in life and some people aren't. I'm a joiner. If something takes my interest, I'll usually join a club or join a group of people who do the same thing. I think the secret to living long is to do things that you love in a group, you know, do it with other people. So my wife and I, Vicky and I, have always been involved with a theatre group for the past 35 years or so, and that's been a big part of our life.
And what do you do there?
Vicky's been mainly involved in the production side, particularly costumes, whereas I've been more involved in the acting, directing, set building kind of side of that as well. But it's an enormous undertaking. I mean, to run a theatre company is just, the amount of work involved is like 2 full-time jobs. It's enormous.
Yeah.
I've also been involved with a scientific group over the past few years, and we do biological surveys out in the Australian outback for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. So that's been a big part of my life in the past 10 years at least. And the physical stuff, I guess, the gym and the walking and the cycling, you know.
There's other things too though that you're not mentioning.
Which things?
Like your meditation retreats.
All right, okay. Yeah, I mean, that goes back a long way. When I was about 13, I decided that I was a Buddhist. I don't know where that came from particularly, and I don't know that at 13 I knew anything about what I was talking about, but I certainly told my mother that I was a Buddhist, and she was pretty horrified about the whole thing, and luckily she didn't ask me anything about it because I wouldn't have been able to explain, but I just somewhere or another in my heart or in my mind or something, I knew I was a Buddhist, and I didn't quite know why or how. When I was in the Navy and away in Hong Kong and places, I saw temples and I saw monks, and I knew that was sort of the path for me, that there was something there that I really identified very strongly with. And so I've been involved with a lot of Tibetan Buddhist centres over the years and teachers, and I took my whole family to India one time to catch up with a Tibetan Lama that we knew. Which was a wonderful experience for everybody. And then more recently I've been involved in the last few years with an American teacher, Bimala Ramsey, and I've done a few retreats with him now. I did one in Bali, which I took my granddaughter to, and another silent retreat in Malaysia this year. So,
and by a retreat you mean like you sit there and meditate for a week or something?
Yeah, 2 weeks of silence. Meditating pretty much all day. I was meditating really about 9 hours a day, plus an interview with the teacher every day. No food after midday. Full on, but just extraordinarily liberating, amazing experience. Amazing experience, and the clarity of the teaching. The particular teacher that he doesn't call himself a teacher. He says, I'm just the guide. I'm just the person to kind of steer you in the right direction. Yeah, he really is. The clarity of his teaching is just extraordinary, and you can't help but make progress.
And what about the Morris dancing?
Oh.
We saw a little bit of that on our Prague to Vienna tour.
As I confessed to you yesterday or the day before that as a child my ambition was to be a ballet dancer, and it never happened for all kinds of, just life, all kinds of reasons. Didn't happen. But many, many years later, when I first moved to Adelaide in 1980, I saw the Morris men dance. You know, they were dancing out, and you know, publicly.
What are Morris men?
Oh, okay. Morris dancing is an ancient English traditional dance. It's danced by usually 6, but sometimes 8 dancers with live music. And it's not like a country dance. It's more like a ritual dance. There's choruses and figures, and you know, it's pretty complicated. Kind of. I won't really go into it, but it's all pretty complicated. How the structure of it all. So I discovered there was the Adelaide Morris dancers, and I joined the Adelaide Morris men, and I've danced with the Adelaide Morris men really on and off since 1980. And I've also danced for a year in England with another side there near Eastbourne, and I danced as well with another side in Hastings called Mad Jacks. I danced there for quite a long time with them. So yeah, I've been around the Morris kind of world really. I built a couple of accordions myself, and I wouldn't say I'm a musician, but I can play a few Morris tunes. I squeeze out a few Morris tunes on the accordion. So Morris dancing's fun. It's very physical. It's very social, but it's also incredibly time-consuming. You know, Morris dancers go away all over the place dancing, and it just takes up an extraordinary amount of time. So I haven't been so actively involved in the past couple of years. I've been more into the cycling in the past couple of years than the Morris dancing. It's an arcane, weird interest, but you know, people do it.
Speaking of cycling, like, how do you have the time right now to be on a month-long bike tour in Europe? Are you retired?
I'm retired. I'm no longer in the paid workforce. And I'm also very, very lucky in that my marriage is one that where these things are quite easily negotiated. Separate, we do a lot of stuff together, we do a lot of holidays together and bits and pieces together, but there's also the freedom to do things individually. So Vicky's been to Europe a couple of times with her old nursing girlfriends, and they go away for 6 weeks even to Italy and places, and that's fine. And so ditto with me, I can just start to work on something and I'll just run it past Vicky, and we'll just decide whether that fits for the family, and that there's no big birthdays on at that time or things that I need to be there for. So it's all negotiated, but there's the freedom to do those kinds of things. There's no problem in this marriage to do those kind of things.
Has there ever been a situation where you're away and like something happened where you wish you hadn't been away?
No.
That's good.
Luckily, fortunately, nothing's happened while I've been away, apart from minor plumbing issues. Or
What do your family members or like the grandkids think of your bike tours? Do they think it's a big deal that you do this, or they don't think anything of it?
They do. I'm the one that doesn't think it's a big deal. I'm the one that just takes it in my stride and thinks, oh well, this is what you do. You just jump on the bike and ride. But the feedback from them is that they think it's, a bit out of the ordinary for someone who's 70 to be jumping on the bike and riding 80 and 90 Ks, or riding for weeks at a time and living in a tent and so forth. So I don't see it as so extraordinary. I just see it as part of what I do. And I just sort of cherish the time that I cherish the fact that I can do it still, and I just love doing it. So, the time will come when I have to say, look, I have to modify what I do, or I have to do it a bit more easily, or I have to, but that time hasn't arrived yet.
That's good. How do you, we've talked about this before, but like a lot of people think that if they're 60 or something, they're too old, How do you know when that time is that,
Yeah, I think...
Because there's a difference, too, between getting old and getting soft,
Yeah.
I think people get soft before they get old.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, look, I know a lot of people who say, I can't do this or I can't do something because I'm too old. and I guess my body will tell me. I mean, I get a lot of physical exercise, and I'm fairly attuned with what my body's doing. So I think that when the time comes and my body says, "You've had enough of this. This is you've got to modify." I don't think I'll ever stop, but I think I'll just modify what I do. And you know, if I can't cycle tour for weeks on end, I might cycle tour for days on end. You know, if I can't live in a tent, then I might get a cabin in a campground or something. I don't know, but I don't ever see a time that I'm going to stop doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the idea of stopping everything because I'm too old. I just see, okay, if I can't do this, then I'll do it in another way. I'll do something else.
Yeah. What do you think of electric bicycles?
You know, I wouldn't be seen dead on one at the moment, but you know, ask me again in 10 years. I might decide they're the best thing since sliced bread, you know.
Yeah, that's good. What do you?
But once again, you know, here's the thing. I mean, in the touring group, there are some people who do ride electric bikes, and they only ride electric bikes because they've modified what they do. They just simply can't get up the hills anymore. They're too, you know, they're you know, fairly senior in age, and so you know, we had one old guy who used to ride with us. He was in his 90s, and he got an electric bike only like in the last 5 years of his life, and good on him. He was still out there every day doing it and all the rest. So, but to get an electric bike just because, you know, you're young and you don't like hills or something, I think's a bit wishy-washy. It doesn't really, that doesn't do much for me.
Yeah, no, I understand. What is it about bike touring that you enjoy?
What I enjoy about bike touring is similar to what I enjoy about bushwalking, walking in the bush for days on end or weeks on end. I like the physical activity. I like arriving at the end of the day when the body's kind of really had to work hard. I think I've got a body that thrives on hard physical work, and I just like getting somewhere and just feeling a bit knackered at the end of the day, like I've put everything into it. And then just the relaxation of camping, just being able to set up a camp and sit around and laugh and chat and, you know, crack a few jokes and just be a bit silly and just relax and get a good night's sleep in the tent. I sleep beautifully in the tent, there's no problem with that. And bicycle touring, yeah, it's like bushwalking. You know, you do those sort of things in the day, and then at night you gather around and you just do things. I like doing it with friends. I'm not so keen on doing it on my own. I have done it on my own, but I much prefer to do things I love with a group. So it's a kind of that shared camaraderie and shared bonding that's fantastic.
Mm.
There was like this yoga by the sea sign, and like 30 people doing yoga, and this guy on one of those going around their crew in a big circle.
What would be your like ideal day? Doesn't have to be on a bike tour.
My ideal day. Oh, look, I've got hundreds of ideal days. You know, I like, you know, doing stuff with the grandkids. Some days I've done things with the grandkids and I've thought this is the best, one of the most wonderful day I've ever had. Similarly, Vicky and I have just gone down to Adelaide and walked along the beach on a summer's evening or something, and that's just been the best thing too, you know. So I really like everything. There's almost nothing that I don't like. So I kind of like doing everything, and when I do it, I always think it's the best. I always think it's great, and it's always, you know, brilliant, and I always seem to have a really nice time. So my best day, the best day for me is just getting up in the morning and just doing something, you know, even a couple of hours in the veggie garden. You know, some days I think that's the most satisfying thing that I've done all week or something, or meeting friends and having a coffee or something. You know, I also find that really satisfying. So I try not to like or dislike things. I just try to just love everything, really.